Welcome to Spiritual Calisthenics. Christ is in our midst. August 24th, we commemorate Saint Eutyches, the Hieromartyr and disciple of St. John the Theologian. Saint Cosmas of Aetolia, equal to the Apostles. The translation of the relics of Saint Dionysios of Zakynthos, Bishop of Aegina, and the translation of the Holy Relics of Saint Peter, Metropolitan of Moscow. Regarding Saint Eutyches, the Hieromartyr, disciple of Saint John the Theologian. Saint Eutyches was a disciple of Saint John the Theologian and a fellow laborer of the Holy Apostle Paul. He preached the gospel in many places, pulled down the idols' temples, and suffered imprisonments and many torments at the hands of the idolaters. He finally reposed in peace in deep old age in his native city of Sevastia near Tarsus. As a sharer of the ways and a successor to the throne of the apostles, O inspired of God, thou foundest discipline to be a means of ascent to divine vision. Wherefore, having rightly divided the word of truth, thou dost also contest for the faith, even unto blood, O Hieromartyr Eutyches, intercede with Christ our God, that our souls be saved. O God-bearing Eutyches, as the apostle's successor and a most becoming rule and good example to bishops, thou wast also glorified with martyric glory, and thou shonest like the sun, enlightening all men, driving off the night of error. Hence we revere thee, O godly servant of Christ. Regarding Saint Cosmas, the new Hieromartyr and equal to the apostles of Aetolia, also known as Cosmas Aetolios, our Holy Father Cosmas was from the town of Megadendra, the great tree of Aetolia. At the age of 20, he went to study in the school of the monastery of Aetolia on the Holy Mountain, that is Mount Athos. Later he came to the Athonite monastery of Philotheu, where he was tonsured. With the blessing of his abbot, he departed for Constantinople, where he learned the art of rhetoric, which is the art of arguing. And therefore he began to preach throughout all the regions of northern Greece, the Ionian Islands, but especially in Albania. The Christian people there were in great ignorance because of the oppression and cruelty of the Muslims. Finally, in 1776, after having greatly strengthened and enlightened the faithful, working many signs and wonders all the while, he was falsely accused by the leaders of the Jewish people and was executed by strangulation by the Muslim Turks in Albania. With oaths let us acclaim the renowned Cosmas, who gloriously excelled among the choirs of the martyrs, priests, and ascetics, and let us gather in praise of his memory, for he dispenses healing to them that have recourse to him with faith, as an equal to the apostles, he is boldest before Christ. Regarding the removal of the relics of Saint Dionysios of Zakynthos, Bishop of Aegina, whom we celebrate most appropriately on December 17th. When Saint Dionysios died in 1622, his last wish was that he be buried in the church of St. George on the Strophates Islands, where he lived as a monk. 3 years after his interment, there his body was found to be incorrupt. In 717, his body was transferred from Strophates Islands back to his home island of Zakynthos, where it resides to this day, and is seen by many of the children in Ionian village, as he is a walking saint, who many times will have seaweed draped around his legs, indicating that he has walked in the bottom of the sea. Regarding the translation of the Holy Relics of St. Peter, Metropolitan of Moscow, on this day we also commemorate the translation of the Holy Relics of St. Peter, Metropolitan of Moscow, which took place in the year 1646. Our holy and wonder-working Father Peter, Metropolitan of Moscow, was born in Volhynia, tonsured a monk at 12 years of age, and later ordained a priest. He lived in solitude for a time in a desert place north of Lviv, and founded the Holy Transfiguration Monastery. Afterwards, he was sent to Constantinople, where the Holy Patriarch Athanasios consecrated him Metropolitan of Kiev in 1308, and he returned to Vladimir, where the Metropolitans of Kiev had their residence at the time. In 1325, he moved to Moscow, where he founded the Dormition Cathedral, and after his repose in December 21st, 1326, was buried there. He was also an iconographer, and 2 of his icons, the Dormition and the Petrovskaya, are found in the Dormition Cathedral. On this day hath come to the glorious feast of the translation of thy precious relics, O Saint Peter, which doth exceedingly gladden thy flock and all Christian people. Fail not to pray for them to Christ our God, who entrusted his flock to thee, that it be kept unharmed from enemies, and that our souls be saved. Since thou art a most outstanding physician and an abundant wellspring of miracles, we thy children have gathered today in love for the translation of thy precious relics. O Hieromartyr Peter, and we pray thee, intercede with Christ God, that by thy venerable translation we be granted victory over our enemies, and that thy prayers to God we be delivered from all evil, that with joy of soul and gladness of heart we may thankfully cry to thee and say, Rejoice, O Father Peter, adornment of bishops and of all orthodox faithful. From St. Paul's letter to the Roman. Brethren, he who observes the day observes it in honor of the Lord. He also who eats in honor of the Lord, since he gives thanks to God. While he who abstains in honor of the Lord, and gives thanks to the Lord. None of us lives to himself, and none of us dies to himself. If we live to the Lord, and if we die to the Lord. So then, whether we live or whether we die, we are the Lord's. To this end, Christ died and lived again, that he might be Lord both of the dead and of the living. So in other words, when we judge people based on what they do, whether they are fasting correctly or not fasting correctly, if someone is living their life according to the Lord is that person's judge. It's not for us to judge that person. Christ is the one who died for us that we might live in him. If we dedicate ourselves to the Lord, then every action is for him. From the Gospel according to St. Matthew. At that time Jesus called his disciples to him and said, I have compassion on the crowd, because they have been with me now 3 days, and have nothing to eat, and I am unwilling to send them away hungry, lest they faint on the way. And the disciples said to him, Where are we to get bread enough in the desert to feed so great a crowd? And Jesus said to them, How many loaves have you? They said, 7, and a few small fish. 7, showing the idea of completion, the entirety of completion. And commanding the crowd to sit down on the ground, he took the 7 loaves and the fish, and having given thanks, he broke them and gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the crowds, and they all ate and were satisfied. And they took up 7 baskets full of broken pieces left over. Again, the idea that church is full, so full that we can't take it all in. We will be satisfied, and there's still more to give. And the completion, the holy 7 churches, symbolized in this basket, the 7 days of creation. Those who ate it were 4,000 men, besides women and children. And sending away the crowds, he got into the boat and went to the region of Magadan. Again, showing us, just as we finished the previous Sunday with the feeding of the 5,000, and this the feeding of the 4,000, shows us once again that Christ our God is asking the church to feed the people. I hope that you've enjoyed today's spiritual calisthenics. Have a blessed and wonderful day.